So I just asked Claude to build its own skill, and in one sentence, in a couple minutes, it now has a brand new capability that it will automatically use forever. I didn't write a single line of text, so let me show you how it works. Skills are one of the most misunderstood things in Claude right now, since everyone's heard of it, but almost no one has built their own. Most people are stuck just dumping everything about the system in the claude.md or trying to scrape GitHub for a somewhat relevant skill. But by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what a skill is, when to use it, and how to have Claude actually create these skills for you. In Claude, a skill is specialized instructions that allows Claude to perform a specific task much better. In terms of its format, it is pretty much just a folder in your system that has one file in it, and it's called SKILL.md. So this is a markdown file with specific instructions that tell Claude how to do a specific task best. The SKILL.md file in particular is training your Claude Code to perform that specific task, telling it what capabilities it has and how to use the tool specifically. And this is the whole reason why skills are so important with Claude. So when you ask it to do something like create a website or a front end, it's going to scrape through the skills that you have, find any relevant ones that may help it perform the task. And if it ends up finding a front end design skill, it's going to put that skill in action by training it on itself first and then performing the actual task when creating the website. So essentially, Claude only pulls it into the context when it finds a matching skill based on what your request was. Now, skills aren't always the best way to give Claude the context it needs. There are essentially three ways to give Claude the context. The first one is going to be the claude.md. This one is going to exist all the time for whatever system you're building. It loads into every single conversation that you use Claude within your directory, and it's going to tell Claude the specific tool stack that you have, the ground rules, anything that Claude absolutely needs to know about the system you're running. Number two, we have the agents.md, which is kind of like the rules for the system. It's kind of like a constitution. It tells the agents or sub-agents within your system how they're supposed to behave, what they're supposed to do, any ground rules that they need to follow, stuff like that. You have your claude.md, you have your agents.md. Those are kind of like managers. They manage the team as a whole, but then you have your skills, and these are like specialists, the people that are extremely good at doing very specific tasks. So skills get called in when you need to perform that specific task, whereas claude.md and agents.md will always get called in during every session for the general rules for Claude to follow, essentially. So now we just need to talk about when you actually need the skills. Well, it's kind of self-explanatory, because if you're setting up an agent or a system that needs to perform specific tasks all the time, that's when you want to use skills. So as a very basic example, if you're setting up an AI agent that is intended to build N8N automations, you would use the N8N MCP, right? Well, along with the N8N MCP, we would also install the N8N skills, because this is going to give Claude specific instructions on how to do certain things within N8N. So as you can see, here's the repository you would clone if you're installing N8N skills. So if we were to go about installing the N8N skills, we would come over to the repository, you would click on the skills, and here's where you can see all the actual skills. For example, we have N8N agents, and within this skill specifically, we have our skill.md, and this is what's going to describe to Claude specifically how to actually use N8N agents, give it special instructions on designing N8N agents. Now, that's just a quick example I wanted to give you, because now we're going to talk about how you can design your own skills when you're building your own personal AI agents or AI systems. And the best part is we don't need to write a single line of text, a single line of code. We just need to know how to prompt Claude to be able to create the skills to the best of its capability. So now you're probably wondering, how do we actually create these skills? Well, lucky for us, Anthropic has designed their own skill, which is specifically used to get Claude to create skills. It's called the skill creator skill. And this is exactly what we're going to install into Claude, so that every single time we need to design our own skills, Claude can call on this skill creator skill to actually write up the skill. All right, so how do we actually do this? Well, there's a couple ways to go about installing the skill creator skill. If you're using Claude Desktop, it's pretty simple, and I'll show that first. All you're going to want to do is come into the Claude Desktop app. We're going to go into our profile, we'll hit on settings, and then we're going to go under the customize skills. Now, right here, you can see I've already installed the skill on this account. Now, if you don't have it yet, you can simply go to browse, you can search up /skill creator, or you'll see it probably right here. You can tap on it and download it just like that. Now, off the bat, when you tap into the skill creator skill, you'll see that we have the skill.md, and these are the specific instructions that Claude will follow every single time you need to create a new skill. So it is as simple as that to get the skill creator skill installed into your Claude account. Now, if you're using Claude through your IDE or your terminal or whatever, you can simply run this command that I'll paste right here, which is pretty much doing the same thing, just installing the skill that you need to create skills. All right, so usually before you create a skill, you'll have some sort of system, AI agent, AI system, whatever it is that you've already created, whether that lives in a GitHub repository or just a local folder on your drive. Usually when you're creating skills, there'll be a specific skill for a specific system. Now, that being said, you can also create global skills, which means that any session you run across any directory that you have Claude in, it can actually call on these global skills. But for this video, because it's more likely that you're going to be creating skills for a specific agent or system, that's what we're going to focus on. Now, right now we're in a directory, which is pretty much just my online portfolio. So it houses all the testimonials I have, all the audits I've done, systems I've built, that sort of thing. And every single time I get a new testimonial or I build a new project, I have to update this portfolio, and I have to explain to Claude the same thing every time: how to update the portfolio, how to make sure it still stays organized, doesn't get too crowded, added, which testimonials are best to display first, that sort of thing. And that gets really tedious because I have to do that every single time I build a new project or I get a new testimonial. I have to update the system. So how can we make this easier? Well, we can just generate a skill using Claude that it knows specifically how I like to update the system. Now, for the sake of it, I'm actually going to run Claude through my IDE so that we can go into the skill.md after and see how it actually looks. Now, I've never actually run Claude through this specific system yet because I built it in a different directory. So you'll see that there's actually no .claude folder at all. There's no skills in it, whatever. So we're going to be able to see how this actually works in real time. So now here's the exact prompt I would give Claude to create this skill. I want you to use the skill creator skill to build me a new skill. First, spend a few minutes exploring the portfolio directory so you understand how it's actually structured. So where testimonials are, where builds are, where audits are, that sort of thing. Here's the problem that the skill needs to solve. Every time I get something new into the portfolio, like a testimonial, a new automation build, a new case study, a new audit, whatever it is, I have to re-explain how to add it correctly. And then I give it examples, right? So we're going back to our prompt engineering here, making sure that we're including some examples. And then what I'm saying is I want a skill that captures all of that tactic knowledge so that the next time I run, I just have to say, add this new testimonial or add this new build, and it'll automatically know exactly where to put it and exactly how to add it. So that's pretty much the basis of what I'm saying in this prompt. And you can get Claude to help you with the initial prompt as well, or just do a couple back and forth with Claude before you actually send this off. Now that we have the prompt ready to go, you can switch your mode. I mean, I usually go to bypass if it's more of a bigger build that I'm doing and I'm trying to create a bunch of different skills. I usually go to plan mode, but this is one specific skill. So I'm actually just going to leave it on auto and we're going to send it off. Now this might take a little bit for Claude to actually get through it. So I'm going to come back once it's done. So as you can see, before it actually goes about creating the skill, it's probably going to want to get more context from you. And it does this by asking you questions. So when we're designing, or when Claude is designing a specialized skill to do a specialized task, it needs as much context as possible to create that skill. And that's why it's going to hit you with these questions. So as you can see here, it's asking me a few questions on how to order the proof items, like the builds, the testimonials, whatever. Strength of proof is what I went with. It's saying what systems to display. So the systems that I've built for my business versus a system I've built for other businesses. And it's saying like always put client work first, or pretty much choose the best suited ones or the most impressive ones. And then it's talking about behavior in terms of renumbering items. So I'm going to go ahead and submit these, and then we're going to continue on and see what it creates. All right, Claude is finally done, and it did a lot more than we asked it because it didn't just create the skill, but it also created a schemas.md, which is like exact fields for audits, builds, and standalone stuff. I think the reason it did this is because it's the first time I've actually run Claude through this directory, even though it was already created in a repository. But not only that, it ran multiple tests, multiple evaluations on the skill itself, and then ended up refining it on its own. Nonetheless, you can see we now have our brand new .claude folder, and in here is where our skills sit. So if we expand our skills, you will see that we have all our skills. We only have one skill, which is adding a portfolio item. And then of course, in here, we have the evaluations that it ran. We have the references, the schemas.md, and then the skill.md itself. Here is the actual skill and how it looks. So if we open this up, we can skim through it, see how it actually looks, see if there's anything we want to actually update. And of course, we can just tell Claude to update that. As you can see, we have many different sections here. So we have the content types, we have the workflow, we have the ranking system, we have the testimonial section, and so on, right? So there's a lot going on in this skill in particular. You can see it's almost 200 lines long, which isn't necessarily that long for a skill. Nonetheless, this is the exact process you want to follow when creating custom skills for your system. So by now you understand what a skill actually is, when to actually use it, and the best way to go about creating these custom skills for your systems. And by the way, if you like learning Claude Code tips like this, or want to actually master building stuff with Claude Code, I have a completely free school community that teaches you exactly how to do that through our Mastering Claude Code course. I also go through Mastering AI Fundamentals. In Mastering Claude Code, I'll show you exactly how to set it up, going all the way through your first builds, installing your skills, your plugins, your MCPs, giving you challenges, even building your first AI agents, and building your own personal coding assistant, as well as building your portfolio out. So if that's something you're interested in, it is temporarily free. So I just suggest you join now. The link is in the description. And that's it, guys. If you found this video useful, hit that like button, drop a sub, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.